Hey there, today let's discuss the Nikon Z8 and the Sony A9III. Two very interesting cameras, but I'm going to specifically discuss one thing. Look, in dynamic range, I've shared what I think of the A9III. There's a video out on my channel on the dynamic range of the A9III for both video and for photos. I have compared it with the Z6 III here, right here. I honestly didn't bother to compare the dynamic range of the A9III with the Z8 because the Z8 dynamic range is quite good. It's only behind the A7R5 and the D850, the Z7 II, and cameras like that. Also the Canon R5, the original one. But then you can never say about Canon because Canon is essentially cheating in the RAW files by adding noise reduction to RAW files. That's makes no sense. How is that a RAW file then? Anyway, so I didn't bother to sort of check because I know the A9III files will not be as high in dynamic range. But what I wanted to check overall was my experience of shooting in high speed situations, and this video is specific to that. This video is specific to my experience of shooting 120 fps with the A9III and the Z8, because the Z8 is supposed to be the fast camera in the Nikon lineup along with the Z9. And to be honest, when I first got the A9III, when I took it out for some time, I thought that the A9III is not going to be like the 120 fps in RAW is not going to be that significant in value. And I was completely wrong, because to be honest, you can actually get your AD200 Pro, which is a Godox flash system, and many people have it. It's a very mainstream flash system. It's affordable. It's a great flash unit, lots of power, quite fast. It can do a lot of things for you, and at 1/64th of the full power on that flash, you can actually shoot at the highest speed at 120 fps. Now, I'm not sure whether it is actually shooting at 120 fps at that point, but I think it is. But it's definitely doing its best, right? The flash is performing really well. You can keep the shutter pressed for like 3 seconds, 4 seconds. You can take hundreds of shots, no problem. And that's where I thought, okay, all right. Like if you're shooting in a controlled environment, especially like things are under control, lighting is under control, you can probably do a lot with 1/200th of a second shutter speed inside that controlled studio environment. And at that point, the motion blur is being taken care of by the flash and not by shutter speed at all at that point, right? All right, because you're not stopping motion with shutter speed at that point. You're stopping motion with the flash, and I mean, it's all right. But then you can also shoot at 1/500th of a second. It's fine because you're shooting RAW. You can recover at least some, right? You can shoot at base ISO of 250. Yes, the dynamic range is a little lower, well, considerably lower compared to the other full frame cameras, lower than even the Z6 III, but you're still doing the best that you can at 100 fps with A9III. Because no one else gives you all that. No one else gives you all that speed with that level of dynamic range. So this is the best you got when it comes to high speed shooting. This is the best dynamic range you got when it comes to high speed shooting. So I'm fine with that. At ISO 250, this camera allows me to shoot at 1/64th of full power on a Godox AD200 Pro. And I can keep shooting. I can do that with the Z8 as well. But then I'm stuck at best at 20 fps. Yes, the files are going to be much better because it's going to have much better dynamic range. But at that point, what you're trying to do there is get like micro movements captured, right? At 120 fps and not at 20 fps. You can get a lot of micro movements captured at 20 fps, but of course you're doing much more of that at 120 fps. So I think at that point I loved shooting with the A9III. Kind of fell in love. I was surprised, shocked. I was like, okay, I'm not ready for the A9III because it is an expensive camera with 24 megapixels and quite a bit of loss in dynamic range. But I love every bit of the rest of the camera, right? Like, I love the fact they've learned so much from Nikon. Like, just look at these two cameras. Let me show you. Look at the curvature here, and look at the curvature here. It's a carbon copy. They have learned to put a front function button here. Let me show you. Here, right? They put a front function button here. The first time that Sony have done it, they put one. The Z9III has three. All other Z cameras, even the standard Z50 has two front function buttons, FN1 and FN2. So all Nikon users are used to having a couple of function buttons in the front of the camera. Then you have so many other custom buttons. You have you get AFC, like right here you get the autofocus modes, and on top of that you get another ring that gives you the shooting. Basically, you can choose the frame rates by shifting this dial. Amazing, right? Then you have so many other buttons throughout this camera. Then you have this amazing thing. Like, let me tell you this. Let me show you this. These rubbers that you see here, these doors that you see here, right? I love how Sony does it, because these are not just some plasticky doors. These are actually high quality rubbers which are very solid, strong. They all open individual ports. Like unlike Nikon, where you open a door and you have like 3 to 4 different ports opened up, and probably you just wanted one port to be opened up, right? Sony says that why should you keep everything open when you need just probably one thing to plug in your whatever device it is that you want to plug in. So the way they have sort of separated it out, they've given you 5 separate individual doors there, and these rubbers will not get deformed over time, which is what happens with a lot of Nikon cameras. Rubbers, like these rubbers, when you sort of use it for some time, they can get bent. They basically swell up. They can become bigger in size. They're not easy to sort of put it back and fit it in after you've used it, especially in hot and humid conditions for about a year or so. So then you have to go to Nikon and get them changed. Like you got to get the rubber changed. Like if you go to any Nikon service center, you will see people coming in just to get change the rubbers, especially these doors. I'm really waiting for Nikon to change that. So Sony have learned so many of the good stuff from Nikon when it comes to ergonomics. The grip is exactly like they've really taken the notes by observing the Nikon cameras. You can really hold it so nicely and easily. Love it. They have given it the convenience of smallness in a highly capable camera body, and they've given you the fullness of the grip, the ability to make your camera extremely flexible by putting so many buttons, customizable buttons there. So I love using the A9III body type. It also comes with on the A1II. Bit of it is also there on the 7R5, but I'm really expecting a jump in the quality of the body that you see on the A7 basic cameras, like the A7 IV, A7 V. Really waiting for that to happen, and when that happens, I'm probably going to shift to the A7 V, because I have experienced the A9III body right now. So like I'm going on not about the performance, but the form factor of the A9III, which as a Nikon shooter, I talk about Nikon ergonomics a lot. So when I see something to be appreciated on a Sony body, why not? I am the first one to accept it. Sony have done a great job here. So coming back, you're limited by speed. Dynamic range is much better. You have a lot more megapixels. Overall, this camera is built like a brick. The rubber here feels so premium, so amazing. Look at the rubber here on the grip, right? It feels soft. It feels grippy. It's like it's made for human hands. The Sony does not feel that good. Their rubber, I don't know, it doesn't feel that soft and so premium. not so grippy. Like, there is soft rubbers that you get on premium tires versus these hard rubbers that make a lot of sound on not so premium tires. That's the kind of difference in rubber quality that you see here. The Z9, the Z8 feels like those premium tires rubber. The Sony feels like a not so premium type of tire rubber. Overall, it was fun shooting the A9III. But I would always rent it. I'm not going to own it because, well, I think the dynamic range loss is a bit too much. The megapixels is not enough to justify the price that is quite high, which is why I'm probably just going to watch out and see if the A7 V can do like 30 megapixels, 30 FPS at least. I don't know, man. I think Sony caps it at 10 or 11, like tenaciously, and I don't like that. We're probably not going to get that on the A7 V, but then we are probably at least going to get the body. Yeah. So, but if you're looking for the 100 fps flash shooting experience, you should definitely rent out a A9III and just experience that. Like when I spoke to the rental houses, they told me that at least in India, in my market, most of the people who borrow the A9III, they use it in studio for high-speed photography, for interesting stuff, for interesting creative stuff inside studio. Who would have thought? Because the entire marketing was based on outdoor sports, right? It just looks better on camera, not as boring as some old photographer doing extremely creative stuff inside his studio all alone. But then, yeah. Anyway, let me know what you think of this video. Subscribe to this channel. I'm very, very keen to know your opinion on this two cameras, and especially of this comparison. Share your opinions on the channel, please, and let me know what you think of these two cameras. Did I say that? Subscribe to the channel and help me reach 8,000 subscribers. So just hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. I'm going to see you with another one.